Hello, welcome. This is the Resilient Rooster. I'm back with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today I'm going to be showcasing Genex Atlantean Mermail. As you can see from this deck list, there's 37 monsters and only 3 spells. The 3 spells is Light of Sekka, which basically is a Pot of Greed, but the downside is you can't use any spells and traps. For the extra deck, I combined it with the Knightmare cards, and these cards will be released in Flame of Destruction, so it's going to be coming out soon. I believe the TCG name of these will be Knightmare, and all of these Knightmare cards, they have one similar effect, which is you can discard a card to activate some of these effects. Knightmare or the Gryphon basically lets you set a spell and trap. The Unicorn lets you target a card on the field and shuffle it. The Phoenix lets you destroy a spell and trap. The Cerberus basically lets you target one special summon monster and destroy it. And then the Goblin lets you do an additional normal summon. And they also have secondary effects. Gryphon makes it to where your special monsters cannot activate their effects. Then we have the Unicorn, which lets you draw a card for every co-link that has the name Knightmare or Knightmare. Knightmare Phoenix lets your co-link not be destroyed by battle. Then the Cerberus lets your cards not be destroyed by card effects. And Goblin prevents your Knightmares or Nightmares from being targeted. So this is the deck list I have right now. Feel free to make any changes, and let's get right into the replays. When it comes to Mermails in general, I'm not that big of an expert, but I do know a lot of the big boards usually require 2 to 3 cards. The 2 cards that you really want to see is the Genex Undyne or the Mermail Abystius. Both of these basically net you a lot of advantages. The Genex Undyne gets you the Crystal Needle Fiber alone, and from there you just go off. You can also link up the Crystal Needle Fiber with Summon Sorcerer, and it makes the combo string a lot easier since you're able to basically get a Toad or a Abystius on the field without having it in your hand. But for the sake of this video, I didn't have it, so I basically did it from scratch. I was lucky to draw extra cards with the Light of Sekka, so it made things a lot easier. So here I'm just trying to link up my field to make a lot of the Knightmare cards or Knightmares. That way I'm able to basically secure the victory. Once you basically establish the board, there's only a few ways to out it. You could basically, I would say like the easiest way to counter this board is basically to kaiju like the center one. That way none of them are co-linked, and you could just Dark Hole Raigeki anything and it should be good to go. But my opponent here, they didn't have it out, so it's kind of hard for them. But here, I basically established my board to where I sort of locked them out. They can target my cards since I don't have the Goblin, but the chances of them having that is pretty low. So right now, I'm just locking them out, and they can't really do much. I basically draw 4 cards during my next turn because I have 4 monsters co-linked. I can't do Battle Phase because I'm under the Elemental Lord. But as soon as it goes to my turn, I basically can secure victory. You don't really get to see those big boards that often, but it's kind of cool to see what you can pull off if you don't get hand trapped. In this game, I sort of sacked my opponent when I drew the Deep Sea Diva from the Light of Sekka, and basically Deep Sea Diva is a 1-card Crystal Needle Fiber, so it gets you so much advantage. I was able to basically spam the board. I also run some questionable cards, but they basically help out in link summoning. I run the Hide and the Hild and the Hide. And they basically special summon each other, and it's cool to see since it makes making your firewall a lot easier. So I was able to basically link it up to where I have a firewall in the middle, and now each time a card leaves the field, I can special summon from the hand. So I was able to get my cards back and just keep spamming away, keep linking up, as they say. I basically made it to where I got the Unicorn on top, and I got the Cerberus on the side, and the Phoenix right there. So I can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects. I would say the easiest way to get rid of this is basically just you kaiju the middle. That way all these effects are now useless since none of them are co-linked. So they can't destroy my card, so now it's basically my turn. And here, since the firewall is basically useless, I try to convert it to something more manageable. So I basically switched it to where I got the Topologic Crispin, but you can run a different Link 3. I just wanted to use it, that way I'm able to basically link up to my Gryphon. Maybe the better one is basically go to a Tri-Gate Wizard, that way you can basically banish a free card. But the main purpose was just to make it to where my opponent can't use any special summon effects. Knightmare Gryphon basically makes it a lock to where your opponent can't activate special summon monsters unless they're linked. And my opponent, since they can't link, all their effects are basically gone. And at this point, I was able to basically just wither them down. I got my normal summon, and they can't really do much about it. I got rid of their field slowly but surely. Got rid of their cards. They basically added a free card, but thanks to my Rodent Toad in the graveyard, I could basically get rid of the Trick Clown without, using my bigger monsters to attack. And at this point, it's game. Since you don't run a lot of spells in your deck, it's kind of cool to replace them with hand traps. That way, at least you can play on your opponent's turn. My opponent gets to start, and I'm playing against Sky Striker basically. They were able to go off, but I had the Ash to stop their engage, and that basically stopped them in their tracks. So they were able to basically lick it up again and get some more advantage, but at least I stopped them from getting, that big advantage with engage. I think engage is a broken card since you basically draw a card and search a card, and that's just too good. My opponent, they stopped my cards from going off, but I had 2 water monsters, and what you want to do if you're sort of stuck is just make the Mermail Abyssalacia. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I would say that this card is a good card just to have because it's a quick effect to where you can send a card from your grave to add a card or add a Mermail card, and the best card to add is the Mermail Abyssalacia. I was basically able to get my Abyssalacia for next turn, and when it leaves the field, you get other effects. I sent the Dragoons to the graveyard that way I can add Deep Sea Diva, so I basically have 2 power plays during my next turn. My opponent does have 1 hand trap, so I have to be careful. But I would still use my Deep Sea Diva, and even if they use the Ghost Ogre on the Diva, I'm pretty sure it probably wouldn't have mattered. I would get so much out of it. I do make the Crystal Needle Fiber at the end, which basically baits out the Ghost Ogre. They did get rid of my link zones, but now I make my backup plan, number 42, which basically gets you more tokens. That way you can just lick it up. And I made the Unicorn, and Unicorn basically has a cool effect where you can discard a card to target 1 card on the field and just shuffle it. So it's good card removal. I probably should have chose the Brandish Maiden Rye in the long run. It probably would have got rid of a lot of things, but they would have been able to chain and they would have avoided it. So I was able to keep going off, and I got 2 co-links, so it's close to where I can almost lock my opponent out. I believe I do manage. Yes, I do manage. And this is the cool part where I basically got everything. I think this is the cool lock against Sky Striker, because Knightmare Goblin basically prevents them from targeting, and most of their cards they target. So I would say that this is basically a great counter towards their deck. They do have the engage, but I'm not sure if they have any cards at their disposal to basically get rid of my field. I would say that their only hope is to basically make a Borlo Dragon. If they have enough resource to make a Borlo Dragon, they could steal one of my cards, and basically none of my cards will be co-linked at that point, and it'll be easy to get rid of my cards. So my goal is basically to stop them or try to finish them before that happens. The problem with Sky Striker is they keep floating. If you destroy their cards, they basically return one of their monsters. So this game was sort of tricky. They kept recurring themselves, and they kept linking out, and I couldn't really do much. But as long as I prevent them from getting a Borlo Dragon, it should be free to go. So they were trying to see if they can get more cards, but at this point they were just digging, and I'm not sure if they had any in their disposal. They did try to attack directly, but I'm pretty sure it's kind of far away for them to attack for a game. But the longer the game takes, the more advantage you get. And this is basically like a resource game, right? Who's gonna run out of cards first? As long as they don't get rid of your Unicorn, you're able to basically get all your hand traps. And these hand traps basically hurt your opponent a lot. I wasn't able to finish them, but their extra deck is dwindling down. They barely have any cards left. And I think they ran out at this point too. They try to summon their cards, but they can't go into their Sky Striker cards, so they just surrendered. Overall, I feel that this deck has good potential. It's a deck where it can go first or second. You have the hand trap as a substitute for your traps, and they do a good job in stopping your opponent if you go second. My opponent did have the Ancient Gear Fortress, so I can't target them with Effect Veiler, but it's still good to see that I have a backup plan just in case that card goes away. So my opponent, they established, just a decent field, and I drew the brick, but I was able to still go off. I had my Prince, and Prince is a good starting play, and that's, I guess, one of the weakness. If you don't really open up a good normal summon, then this deck just bricks a lot. But even if you do brick, as long as you can get 2 water monsters and you can make your Mermail Link monster, then it should be fine since you're able to search out your cards, assuming that you live the following turn. And I made the totally awesome, that way I can negate the Ancient Gear Howitz when it goes to the graveyard, and this basically is game. I have Abyss Megalo, which can basically attack twice. And this is the part where they only have 1 card left. Or not 1 card, they only have 2100, but I was able to make my Mermail Abyss Alacia. And now, no matter what they do, I have a disruption, since I could get rid of my infantry and stop any of their plays. That's it for the replays. If you enjoy it, please leave a like. If you want to see more Yu-Gi-Oh content, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.